Okay, so let's start out with conceptual question 2.7 here. It's asking us to consider the motion depicted in figure Q 2.7. Position versus time is what we have plot here, and there's some letters on there. Okay, and so the first thing they ask us is when or at which letter points is the object moving the fastest. So when is it moving the fastest? When we talk about fastest, we're really talking about speed or magnitude of the velocity. So the speed is the largest. And that's, of course, going to be the magnitude of the slope. And so when I look at this plot, I see kind of a curved section here, and it kind of straightens out. And when you look closely at this, I think that the only point that we can say is actually the largest is D here. Looks like A and C both have a slightly smaller slope in magnitude. Slope at B is 0, slope at F is 0, and I think that E is also smaller than D is. And then we're asked, when is the object moving to the left? And they didn't tell us, but I'm going to assume that left means the negative x direction. That's what they mean by left. And so that's when the slope is less than 0. And so I think that there are 3 points where that's the case, and that's C, D, and E, because at each one of these points the slope is negative. It's not the same for each one of those points, but it's negative for each one of those points. And then we're asked, when is the object speeding up? That is to say, when is the slope getting larger at that point? And I think if we look at the slopes before and after C, I think that that's an obvious one. I think the slope before and after D is the same. So I think that's supposed to be a line there. And the slope before A is greater than the slope before A is greater than is after A, so that one's slowing down. And the same thing for E. I think that the slope before is greater than is afterwards. And I think the slope before and after F is the same. I think that's leveled out. The tricky one, I think, is B. Because while the slope right before and right after B is actually the same, at B, the instantaneous velocity or speed is 0, but right afterwards, it's a little bit larger. It becomes negative. So just like the example with the ball, I think that this is a case where the acceleration is non-zero during this part. And so I think B is also a pretty good answer, although a little tricky. But think about the throwing the ball up example. Also with that example, we're asked in part D, lowercase d, when is the object turning around? And this is exactly what we talked about before, where the at the top of the motion in the example with the ball, the velocity goes from positive to negative, and it has to go through 0. So I think B is also the correct answer for D.